And repeat with me the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the roll call will reflect that all cabinet and board members are present. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of October 5th, 2021?
So moved, Anna Conover.
By Anna Conover. Is there a second?
Second, Linda Porras.
Seconded by Linda Porras. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for the question. Preferential vote?
Aye.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That carries 5-0.
Abstention.
Oh, abstention? Who
Yes,
abstained?
I was out sick,
Oh,
so.
Wendy, okay, so that is 5-0 and 1. Okay, is there any addenda to this evening's agenda?
We have none.
Okay. Community staff student recognition.
I'd like to invite up our Public Information Officer, Ms. Mary Perry, and while she's on her way to the microphone, I'd like to recognize Mary. She was recently named 2021 Safe Schools Desert Cities Champion of Youth. Congratulations, Mary.
Thank you very much. And I think before I begin, Scott, you may have another presentation you want to talk about? Something to do with the bell?
I actually do.
Okay.
Many of you know that the district won the California State School Boards Association Golden Bell in 2019 for building out the LTE network, so our students had equitable access to Wi-Fi. We're very proud of that bell, and about a month ago I announced to the audience that we were finalists for 2 Golden Bells. We just completed the validation process with CSBA representatives, and I'm here to say that Friday we were informed that we actually won 2 Golden Bells in the same year. There are about 50 Golden Bells issued statewide, and it's extremely rare to have 2 in 1 year. So congratulations to the board for their leadership and all Desert Sands educational community.
I actually spoke to the PIO of CSBA, it sounds like alphabet soup, earlier this week, and he was stunned that we had actually won 2. He said that never, ever happens.
And the 2 projects, just real quickly, one is the Desert Sands Leadership Academy, we call it DESWA, and the other is the Early Literacy Program. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm really proud of us. So a few months ago, I brought to your attention that Palm Desert High School's CTE Film and Broadcasting program would find teacher Joe Martin and his students traveling to New York City as they were finalists in the All-American High School Film Festival. 2 of their films were selected, and they were shown during the festivities on October 9th and 10th. Their broadcast journalism entry, which is the highlights of their daily broadcast, was in the top 3. And the documentary on the Salton Sea was in top 10. So congratulations to both teacher Joe Martin and the students who participated in the submissions. In the broadcast TV highlights, it was Noah Allen, who is now a graduate of Palm Desert High School, Angela Yara, who's 4th from the left in that photo, Marissa Tilley, also a senior like Angela, she's all the way on the right, Lauren Trappier, a senior, Nathaniel Severin, a senior, Bradley Gilbert, a senior who's standing between the 2 young ladies on the right, and Mason Morehouse, a senior, and he's the gentleman in the middle of the photo. So congratulations to Palm Desert High School and the students who've created some absolutely incredible videos. And their documentary on the Salton Sea, there are a couple of people to congratulate. Opal DeLao, who is the young lady in the red. Stefan Pajovic, a graduate who is not pictured. And Sebastian Garcia, who is the gentleman standing next to Opal. So again, congratulations to the team. So just this morning, we received news from the folks at U.S. News and World Report. And 5 of our elementary schools were ranked in the top 1,000 of the nation. This is the very first year that U.S. News and World Report has ranked elementary schools. And our schools that were so honored are James Carter, Gerald Ford, James Monroe, Martin Van Buren, and George Washington Charter all elementary schools. And congratulations to the students and the staff who made that happen. I'd also like to congratulate the Director of Facility Services, Patrick Cisneros, and his team for receiving the Sew Up Safety Award. And Sew Up stands for Statewide Educational Wrap-Up Program. And this current recognition is for the Gerald Ford Elementary School Modernization Project and the James Monroe Elementary School Modernization Project. And this is not the first time that Patrick and his team have been recognized for their safety practices. So please welcome SOUP's Director of Loss Control Services, there he is, John Rodriguez, and he's going to present the awards to Patrick, as well as to Joe Ledesma, who I know is here, right there, of Ledesma and Meyer Construction Company, the construction management team for the Ford project, and Eric Trunell and Ben Price, the construction management team for the Monroe project. So John, the mic is yours.
Thank you. I'll make this brief, and thank you for allowing this brief presentation. Just to let you know what the statistics were, there was only one workers' compensation claim, minor, on the Ford Elementary School project. That resulted in a workers' comp loss ratio of less than 1%. On Monroe, there was 0 workers' comp claims, and that resulted, of course, in a 0.00 loss ratio for the workers' comp. To put that in perspective, workers' comp carriers consider a 60% loss ratio the break-even point. So a lot of the companies out there shoot for a 30% as excellence. We did very well on both these projects. There were no general liability claims at all on both these projects. So congratulations to both teams, Desert Sands Unified School District, and all the men and women who worked on this project. So congratulate yourselves. And I got plaques. Somebody's going to have to help me give these out. Come on up, Patrick. You got 2. Joe? Come on up. Eric, what do you want to say? Eric and Ben? You'll have to share.
And Sean, take your picture if you don't mind. John, join me. But I don't want to do it. So as you know, each month our community engagement director and director of the foundation, Sean Webb, who obviously also serves as my photographer, he releases the names of 2 staff members whose names are drawn from among the month's IT, incredibly talented nominations. So he's here tonight behind me to announce the winners of September. And after he makes that announcement, he's going to talk to you about another really great and exciting thing that happened last week, and there'll be a short video. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. This month, the CV Harvest Boxes will be presented to 2 staff members. We had over 100 nominations for the month of September, but they are being presented to Carlos Daniel Martinez, a Palm Desert High School teacher, math teacher, and Deanna Roberts, a library media technician at Theodore Roosevelt Elementary School. Daniel was nominated by an anonymous parent who wrote, "He is wonderful with the students and an excellent teacher." Deanna was nominated by a student who wrote, "I picked Mrs. D because she is nice and amazing. We play games and I like picking new books from the library from her." Congratulations to both of those members and to everyone that was recognized this month for having incredible talent. Lastly, as Mary was sharing, as you guys know, we had the BNP tournament that just finalized on Sunday. And we greatly appreciate the friendship that the Indian Wells Tennis Gardens has with Desert Sands Unified School District, as well as the foundation. For those of you that don't know, they've been the host of CAMFest, our Children's Arts and Music Fest, on their grounds for the past 4 years up until COVID. We hope to return in 2022. So this year, the folks over at the BNP recognized the staff at Desert Sands Unified School District for being unsung heroes at their evening matches on October 11th. They provided us with tickets with our staff members, including a guest ticket for an evening of relaxation. And they also used their big screen to honor our staff, and we thank them for all their support.
I'd like to close out this week's recognition with a short little video of the event.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we continue tonight our celebration of heroes like we've been doing all tournament long. And we are especially thankful for all types of heroes who were and continue to be invaluable to getting us where we are today. Tonight, we recognize our educators and all educational staff. So please direct your attention up to the video boards as we celebrate heroes in tennis paradise. Since March of 2020, our educators and educational staff have had to step into roles unlike before. Their heart, their passion, and ability to adapt and inspire our youth is nothing short of remarkable. Representing this group of heroes, please welcome Desert Sands Unified School District Superintendent Scott Bailey. President Don Griffith. Desert High School Principal, 2021 Principal of the Year, Dennis Zeke. Fourth grade teacher at Johnson Elementary, 2021 California Teacher of the Year, Allison Sear. So let's send some love to 2021 Riverside County Confidential Employee of the Year, Connie Rodriguez. Our recipients will be receiving additional staff worldwide. Thank you for your hard work and dedication to our community. You are our true heroes.
Overall, that was just an amazing event in our partnership with them and our friendship with the Tennis Gardens. We thank them. Overall, they gave us over 300 tickets for our staff, so it's pretty amazing. Thank you.
Does that conclude? Okay, and now we'll do introduction of new and recently promoted employees. Dr. Hyde.
Thank you very much. I am pleased to introduce Patricia Leone, mental health therapist. Ms. Leone earned a master's degree in clinical psychology from Cal State Fullerton. Prior to coming to Desert Sands, she worked for the County of Riverside as a clinical therapist for 10 years. The majority of her tenure with the county, she was assigned to Indio Juvenile Hall, providing clinical services to youth as they go through court and the education process. She has also served as the Educationally Related Mental Health Services Coordinator, or the ERMS coordinator, at Juvenile Hall, ensuring that youth receive the appropriate level of mental health services to support their education. Mrs. Leone is trained in several evidence-based treatment programs, including but not limited to trauma-based intervention. She and her husband, Nick, have 2 sons. The oldest attends Truman Elementary School. She enjoys camping, off-roading, and spending time with her family. She is very excited about this opportunity to be back in the community providing support for our students because, as she states, I know how important having the right people in our children's lives is. Mrs. Leone, welcome to Desert Sands.
Thank you so much.
Please introduce yourself and say a few words.
I'm Patricia Leone. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and as stated, I've been at Juvenile Hall for the last 8 years. So I'm excited and honored to make this change and be able to support our students and our families out in the community. As Dr. Hyde stated, I have my own son at Truman Elementary, so I know what it's like to be a parent, especially over the last couple of years. It's not been easy, so I'm, as I said, honored to be able to have this opportunity to support our students. Thank you.
I am also pleased to introduce Lynn Purper, Project Manager, Facilities. Ms. Purper comes to Desert Sands Unified from Mount San Jacinto Community College, where she served as the Dean of Capital Planning and Facilities. Prior to that, she served as the Facilities Director for the Riverside Community College District. She has had success in setting up bond implementation plans and programming educational spaces. During her free time, Ms. Purper works with the Riverside Sheriff Department's Search Dog Team. She is very excited for the opportunity to work for Desert Sands, and we are very happy to have her. Ms. Purper, are you here? Please come forward and say a few words.
Good evening. One of the reasons I wanted to come work for Desert Sands is there's integrity and there's respect, and people speak very highly of Patrick Cisneros in the district. And that's the kind of person I want to work for, someone that's going to lead by example, but also understand that it has to be balanced as well. Thank you.
Okay, we have one information item. That's the quarterly report summary on the Williams Unifor complaints for July through September. And we don't have any complaints on that. Now we have staff conference items. Emily, are you ready to give your report on Summit High School? All right, floor is yours.
Good evening, board members. This is Summit High School's ASB report. This year, we return to school full-time and have a great turnout for our school. We have welcomed the students back to a new school schedule. The students are excited to be back in person and are following the protocols and guidelines for in-person instruction. Summit staff continues to be focused on our students' success and encouraging them to complete their classes, recover their credits, and graduate. Our staff believes that positive student-teacher relationships are a strong factor in students' academic success. Summit's school-wide goals are to increase academic achievements, increase graduation rates, and college and career readiness, and to create a welcoming school climate and increase student involvement. We have taken many steps to work on these goals, which of many will be in this report. Summit High strives to acknowledge and encourage those students who have done well in the area of credit completion, attendance, and behavior. We have begun a Friday shout-out announcement for students who have been recognized for displaying outstanding actions and accomplishments. Our MTSS team will be rolling out school culture, student and staff recognitions. We are excited to continue and even increase the positive enforcement of the school environment, of the school this year. Summit has instituted a new school schedule. We have transitioned from a self-paced semester system to an accelerated 4-quarter system. This system allows students to earn up to 100 credits in a school year at an accelerated pace. A majority of students like the new schedule. They stated that there is a great sense of urgency and they prefer the pacing compared to the previous model. The teachers report that more students earned credits in the first quarter under this system than they did at any time this last year under the old system. Teachers have modified their curriculums to meet the new pacing schedule while assignments and projects into their curriculum. Summit has also introduced some new courses to the curriculum: senior studies, anatomy, psychology, and ASB/leadership courses. The students interested in ASB at Summit High School have been off the charts for the first time in a long time. There are 28 students interested in being active members of ASB and look forward to planning activities for the student body. The ASB has been working on a Spirit Week for the 25th through the 29th of October. Days include Picnic Day, PJ Day, and accumulating in a costume contest the Friday before Halloween. We have blood drives scheduled in November, March, and in May as well. The ASB is currently working on planning activities for students to participate in at lunch and stocking a student store. Since the last ASB Summit report, we have a change in leadership. We thank interim principal Dan Kenley for his service and help with challenges we were facing at that time. We welcomed our new principal, Dr. Jose Ramirez, about halfway through the 2021 school year. Dr. Ramirez was a teacher here previously and knows all of our students and their needs. We have welcomed a new staff member as well. Mr. Mark Monroy has joined our staff as the new physical education teacher. He has been a positive asset to our staff and fits right in with the physiology of our school. philosophy of our school. We at Summit aim to foster a safe and welcoming environment to our students and staff. To aid this endeavor, we have planned activities and created the student support services like the Wellness Center, team sports, and new clubs. The place where students can talk with Mr. Daugherty and wind down from a busy or stressful day. Team sports are back. We have completed the volleyball season, and the next is basketball, followed by soccer and softball. We have surveyed the students in their interest in clubs on campus, including Friday Night Live, esports, and hopefully more coming soon. Looking forward, we are preparing for our WASC accreditation, evolution, and the Summit staff continues to work towards improving our program and students' educational experience, our culture, and our school-wide goals. Thank you for your time and attention tonight.
Emily, I just want to say thank you for representing the student body at Summit so very well, and for that matter, the student body of Desert Sands. I have a memento for your service serving as a student board member.
Okay, next we'll move on to the bullying prevention awareness item.
Right, thank you. October is National Bullying Prevention Month. Our presentation tonight provides not only information on what defines bullying and the legal requirements of prevention, intervention, investigation, and resolution, but also on what prevention and intervention looks like at our sites across the district and how we are building and creating a culture and climate to address and support the needs of all students. This evening, Mandy Wiltrout and Larry Billinich will be providing the presentation, along with the very important help and talents of our amazing Indio Middle School students and staff that are here this evening under the direction of Principal Lizzie Hartman. So Mandy and Larry, it's all yours.
All right, thank you, Ms. Fisher, for this opportunity to present our bullying prevention efforts to rest of cabinet and board. So good evening. So when we're looking at behaviors to determine if it's actually bullying, we're looking at three different components. First, we're looking at if there's an imbalance of power, whether that's real or perceived, and that can be based on age, size, or even social status. We're also looking if there's an intent to harm, whether it's verbal, physical, or psychological, and it needs to be repeated behaviors over time. There are 6 legal requirements based on our education code and board policies that we're going to briefly go over tonight. But the district is required to provide prevention, intervention, professional development, a reporting, investigation, and resolution procedure. We began our MTSS framework implementation about 5 years ago with multiple cohorts focusing on Tier 1 school climate and culture, as well as PBIS, positive behaviors, intervention, and supports. Schools were then tasked with coming up with their school-wide expectations, their acknowledgement systems, a way of looking at rewarding students for the behaviors that they wanted to see on their campuses. Also, right before the COVID shutdown, we were able to train at least 2 key staff members from each site in restorative practices, with the focus of that working on with the focus of restorative practice, working on conflict management, repairing harm, and relationship repair, with the intent to build a culture of empathy as well as accountability. Other tier-wide practices that are happening at schools are school-wide assemblies during Bullying Prevention Month, as well as year-long. We have Buddha bullying, primarily for elementary, but they also do secondary. The district attorney's office comes out and provides many different presentations based on bullying, gang awareness, careers, a wide variety of guest speakers. We have character building curriculum, and we also partner with our Start With Hello program that's done in September. So moving on to intervention. When behaviors do happen, we have conflict resolutions, we have peer mediation programs. We have 1 school site with a peer mediation class
as well as we just sent several school sites through the PLUS training, the Peer Leadership Uniting Students, which is for peer leaders at secondary level. We do restorative circles in many school sites across the district and are continuing to do restorative practice training once we make it through the sub shortage so we can get back to training the district and our trainer of trainers. Several sites have alternative suspension rooms where students are, instead of going home and being suspended, they are working on reflecting on their behaviors, looking at lagging skills, possibly doing PowerPoints or social skills lessons to look at not only the harm that it caused themselves or by the choice that they made, but how it affected other people around them and what that they can do different next time. We have social skill groups and small group counseling for the level tier 2, as well as behavior support plans and individual counseling for tier 3. Our partnership with Start With Hello took place in September. Many schools, 30 actually, participated this month during September 20th through the 24th. And the purpose of this was to provide a culture of inclusion and connectedness with small activities that we could promote. Reaching out is okay. We have Spirit Week, dressing up. Students are able to provide kind activities, to send notes to students and faculty, anything that promotes a culture of inclusion and recognizing when students might be lonely and including them in activities. The assemblies that I mentioned earlier, Buddha Bullying, they come out to the school, they talk to the students at their level, define what bullying is, how it's different than conflict, how they can handle it, who to reach out to, and also taking pledges to change the behavior and not do it in the future. So with all of that, what does that look like? What does it look like at a tier 1 school-wide level with prevention and intervention, and then including tier 2 and tier 3? Due to the time constraints and the nature of this presentation, there are so many schools that are doing some amazing things, but I wanted to highlight one school in particular that's working really hard to promote relationships and a positive impact on their students. So if we could take a look at this short video from Indio Middle School.
Bullying prevention starts with a school culture that's positive, inclusive, and focuses on building relationships. At Indio Middle School, we take a proactive approach to ensure all students feel safe, welcome, and have an adult and other students they can rely on. IMS starts the 6th grade year with an awesome web orientation in which trained student mentors are paired with incoming new students. These web leaders support our new students through a fun and informative orientation and provide multiple activities throughout the school year to build relationships with their webbies. Web leaders also join the 6th grade lunch to play games, talk with their webbies, and most importantly, they make sure no student sits alone. Okay, IMS also has the best ASB program. Of course, ASB leads our school events and spirit, but even more so. Our ASB program focuses on inclusivity and events that celebrate and recognize our student backgrounds, interests, and needs. For example, ASB hosted a huge celebration for Mexican Independence Day, which received positive media coverage. Beyond that, ASB has taken the lead on our Start With Hello event each year to ensure we are spreading kindness across our campus. Indio Middle was one of the 7 schools in the nation to be recognized by Sandy Hook Promise for their work on kindness and anti-bullying during the 2020-2021 school year. Indio Middle is also the only school with a peer mentoring class, in which we train our students to support their peers through conflict and difficult times. This class includes many of our 7th and 8th grade student leaders and helps them develop skills to be leaders for kindness, inclusivity, and positive school culture.
Looking back now, what could we have done?
I could have talked to my friends and told them that we weren't dating.
What do you need to do or say to make this right with the person sitting across from you?
To apologize for accusing you, Lynn. So, I'm sorry.
Do you accept their apology?
Students at Indio Middle School are awarded Tiger tickets when we notice them demonstrating our ROAR values of respect, ownership, acting safely, and responsibility. Students are extremely motivated to get these electronic tickets because they can use them for awesome things, such as accessing our Tiger Den at lunchtime with games, beanbag chairs, and music, our weekly and quarterly raffles, purchasing IMS merchandise from our safari shop, or even purchasing items from their teachers in their Teacher Tiger ticket stores. We still know that even with all these proactive supports, there may be times that students will need interventions to address misbehavior and teach their appropriate behavior. At Indio Middle School, we believe that all students should have the opportunity to learn from their mistakes and be provided with the tools to help them not make those mistakes again. Indio Middle School houses a wellness hub on campus that is supported by a behavioral coach, mental health therapists, counselors, and academic specialists. When needed, restorative practices, including the use of restorative circles, are implemented to help students reflect on their behaviors, understand their behavior's impact, and learn how to improve these behaviors. We have seen tremendous success within our Wellness Hub, formerly known as the RPI Center, with our students' behavior, and ultimately has had a positive impact on how our students are treating one another on our campus.
I'll start with Chris. So, Chris, what about you? Who was affected by your actions?
My mom was affected by my actions, and things to make it right is kind of getting back to trust and try to just do right.
Very good, man. I think that's perfect.
What she expects from me, like chores, helping her with the just like doing helpful things to make her feel happy.
Perfect, dude. And like it really is, right? You gotta earn back her trust. I think you nailed it, and you gotta work on it, right? Yeah. Thank you. And I really hope that you do try and do it.
I've been doing restorative circles since I was in 6th grade. Restorative circles helped me so much by saying how I felt about the things I was doing wrong, and also hearing other people's opinions of what I was doing, and that helped me change my mindset of what I was doing in 6th grade. I've been going to the RPI Center to help me since 6th grade. It's helped me a lot and changed my mindset a lot. Hearing other students and what's going on with them helped me, because I learned that it wasn't just me by myself, it was other people too. Me putting in opinions for other people also helped them, and our reserve circles are very helpful with each other because it stays with each other and we help with each other. Hearing how my actions affected other people's feelings have helped me change my mindset a lot, because I didn't know that my actions was hurting other people's feelings and other people's thoughts.
Thank you. Aren't they awesome? For our next component, professional development, we're going to continue our training within Tiers 2 and Tier 3, as well as strengthen our Tier 1 systems. We're also providing training with the system principals on investigations and reports for bullying, and the policies and procedures that go along with that. I am proud to say that prior to COVID, all school sites and staff at that time have been trained in trauma-informed practices. So anyone that is new that has come into our district since then, we do have it recorded so they are able to at least see the training, or if anybody needs a refresher, we're able to provide that for them. We're going to continue on with our alternative to suspension training rooms, where students can go to learn about their choices and why they're making those, receive counseling, look at some social skills, possibly have Tier 2 or Tier 3 interventions based on the need of the student at that time, reflect on their behavior, and be able to reintegrate back into the regular school day without missing any academic time. We're also going to continue the restorative practice trainer program, where we're training our own district personnel to be trainer of trainers, and then to continue on, and the goal is to train everybody in Desert Sands in restorative practices site by site. So we'll be able to provide whole group training as well as small group training and refreshers once we complete that. And the goal is to start again in November, given the sub shortage.
Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the investigation side of things. You can see all the great things we've got going on as far as the prevention and the positive school climate and culture that we're really trying to push out to all our school sites this year, and doing a great job by Mandy and the Ed Services team. Wonderful work. So as we go into the investigation side, the first thing that comes up, we want to know how people report to us when they have an incident of bullying. Because we have all these great things going on, but we do receive reports. So we have a few different ways that you can report a bullying incident. There's the old-fashioned way where you go right up to the school officials, any school official, and you can make a report. We also have an anonymous reporting system. It's called PSST. You can see that with the first red line there. And that's anonymous, and that's required by law that we have that. We also have a non-anonymous bullying and harassment reporting where that's where somebody can just report their name and give a little bit more detail on it. So that's how you report. And then once the report is put in, it'll go directly to the school site administrators who will immediately start an investigation on what the report entails. So the next slide is, we talked about it's a formalized process. We have the pieces, they'll go in and they'll do the investigation, do their interviews with witnesses. They'll come up with their findings and facts, and from there they'll make their determination of what direction to go and come up with outcomes. The written report that you saw in there, a big piece of this is we've also got a reporting piece that the administrators can fill out, and that will generate another required process. It'll come up with a full summary of the investigation. They'll have that for their records. We also supply the parents of the victim and the parents of the offender so they know what is taking place as far as the investigation side. And from there, you know, we're really looking at, we talked a lot about the interventions that Mandy mentioned. We're looking at providing those interventions for both the victim and the offenders. So we want to teach the offenders and educate them as far as appropriate behavior. And then we want to make sure that the victim feels safe and make sure that there's some check-ins going on with them and other interventions that we can provide for them as well as counseling and support in that nature. So that's in a nutshell what the investigation side looks like. And I'm going to give the podium back to Mandy so we can have some recognition time for our great Indio Middle School that's here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Belenich. Okay, I would like to give a very special thank you to all of Indio Middle School staff and students for all of their hard work over the past 4 or 5 years implementing the MTSS framework and everything they're doing to make a positive impact in the lives of students at that school site and district-wide, as well as building relationships and really being a model school. So Ms. Hartman, Ms. Hudson, Mr. Cohagen, Mr. Maris, Ms. Scogan, Mr. Sexton, Mr. Uribe, Ms. Triplett, Mr. Mason, Mr. Villeda, Ms. Luna, Joanna, Ms. Aceves. All of these people are not the only staff members, but they played a key role in helping put this video together so you could really take a good look at what it looks like on a campus in full force. And the students that are here today, Alexander Diaz, Adiela De La Torre, Joel Ariano Gonzalez, Rochelle Sandoval, Shantae Taylor, Genesis Flores, Emma Alvarez, Jessica Vieira, Evelyn Milian, Jocelyn Dominguez. Thank you so much for all of your help and effort and your hard work. You're amazing. And you can stand up if you want. If you're here from Indio Middle, please just stand up really quick. Thank you. Indio Middle staff, students, thank you. We want to see you. They also edited that video and put that video all together, so thank you. Thank you. Board, Superintendent Bailey, Cabinet, any questions?
Hey, Emily, do you have any questions?
I'm all good.
All right. Pierce?
Looks like a great progress there as a model school for the MTSS we've been working on so hard.
Yes.
I love the wellness room and the place to just go and unwind and talk about issues. I think all of the mental health therapists and people we've been able to add since COVID has been a real asset and will continue to be because we needed it so much before, but now even more so, and I think that's really helping the kids. So I appreciate the report. Thank you.
Horace?
I just want to say thanks for the report. I think it's awesome that everybody's working together and really teaching life skills, you know, out when you get out in the real world. And I think Indio Middle's an awesome school. My kids went there, and it's even more awesome now. So I just wanted to ask you, though, since you've implemented this in the last 5 years, have you noticed a difference?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, especially in the positive school culture, not just at Indio Middle School, but district-wide. I know times are really hard right now with the transition back to school with COVID, and we're seeing a lot of social emotional issues on the rise. But overall, it shows in the data It shows in the behavior of students and just how much they want to be there. I was on that campus multiple times, and they're just excited to be at school. They're working really hard to earn their Tiger tickets. They talk about their Roar values. It's a great place to be, and they're not the only site. It's just with the presentation, we're recognizing them because they definitely deserve it. But yes, I do see a difference across the district, and I'm fortunate to be able to go see it.
Yeah, thank you. Great presentation, and congratulations, Indio Middle School, for your recognition for the Sandy Hook Promise and just all the wonderful things that you're doing there. I see a familiar face out there. Hi, Mrs. Scogan. But I just want to say I'm very proud, and what a great example you are to the other students in our district. I think it's a great program, and we obviously have come a long way. I love the idea that you have that video training for those people that might miss. I do have a question. This is going to sound, we may not have considered it, but you mentioned the problem is that you might not be able to give the program right now because we're having a shortage of subs. That being said, have we ever given our subs any kind of training on this?
Not yet. Not yet, Ms. Jonathan, but that is something that we've talked about, including substitutes, bus drivers, custodians. The goal is for everybody district-wide to have trauma-informed practice training at some point.
Because you have a sub coming in, and sometimes unfortunately, sometimes the students look at this teacher and know that they're a substitute. And so if they had certain skills in dealing with the situation, it might be a little bit better. But love it. I know when my kids were little, they weren't bullies to each other, but I remember them taking a time out and saying, hey, when you can't get out of timeout unless you come back and explain what you did wrong and how you could do it differently. And it's a life skill that they've taken, now 40, 38 years old, they've been able to utilize that in their lives. So thank you for all your work you're doing and great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. I do want to thank the students and the staff from Indio Middle School for being here, and thank you for giving us a peek into your world. I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Thank you to Indio Middle School for all the work that you put in on that. Mr. Bailey.
Well, thanks to Ms. Wiltrout and Mr. Bellens for the presentation, and to all the Indio Middle School staff. And students, so awesome to see you here this evening, so thanks for representing.
Now we'll move on to the American Rescue Plan Act Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Grant presentation.
Thank you very much. We will have a presentation this evening by Kristen Wood, who is the coordinator of the Local Control Accountability Plan Strategy and Performance, and she will be walking you through the development of the plan.
It's a busy evening. Okay, good evening. We are here tonight to present our DSUSD ESSER 3 document for board approval. The ESSER 3, along with all of our funding documents, are in alignment with our district's vision, mission, and values, preparing every student for college, career, and life by inspiring and nurturing them one opportunity at a time and instilling our values of relationships, respect, innovation, inclusion, teamwork, kindness, equity, excellence, and service. The local control funding formula is California's school funding law that focuses on student success and requires school districts to involve educational partners such as families, students, community members, and employees in the planning, decision-making, and developing of said documents. In addition to the many documents we have shared over the last 2 years, we'll now present the American Rescue Plan, or ESSER 3. Listed here are COVID relief fund documents that have been communicated over the last 2 years, such as ESSER 2, the Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant, and the In-Person Instruction Grant. The ESSER 3 will be added to specifically address students' academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs, as well as address the opportunity gaps that existed before and were exacerbated by COVID-19. ESSER stands for the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. This significant funding was included in 3 funding packages signed into law in 2020 and 21, the CARES Act, CARISA Act, and the American Rescue Plan, or ESSER 3. The CARES Act, or Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, passed in March of 2020 and includes funds for individuals, businesses, and schools. The emergency funding specifically for schools was distributed through 2 portions, one called the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief, or ESSER 1, and one called the Governor's Emergency Education Relief, or GEAR Fund. The CARISA, or Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, passed in December of 2020 and also included funds for individuals, businesses, and schools. The portion specifically for education is referred to as ESSER 2. The American Rescue Plan passed in March of 21 provided a variety of tax changes and payments designed to support individuals, businesses, governments, and schools. This act also included a portion reserved for education known as ARP-ESSER or ESSER 3. H.R. 1319 was the comprehensive bill that addressed the need to have additional relief to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on the economy, public health, state and local governments, individuals, and businesses. It became Public Law 117-2 on March 11, 2021, and is the law that provides school districts the funds to safely reopen and sustain the operation of schools and address the impact of COVID-19. The ESSER plan must be adopted by the local governing board at a public meeting, like tonight's meeting, and then submitted to the County Office of Education within 5 days of the adoption, with the deadline being that of October 30th, 2021. The sections of the ESSER 3 are community engagement, actions and expenditures to address student needs, ensuring interventions address student needs, and a summary of all the planned expenditures. There are 3 key priorities for this ESSER funding. 1, returning to in-person instruction. 2, maintenance of effort and equity, which is designed to ensure that federal dollars are not replacing local and state funding. And 3, addressing learning loss, which includes students' academic health, social emotional well-being, and addressing the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 in student subgroups. At a minimum, the LEA's plan for the use of ESSER 3 funds must address the following: the extent to which and how the funds will be used to implement prevention and mitigation strategies that are to the greatest extent practicable, in line with the most recent CDC guidance, in order to continuously and safely operate schools for in-person learning. How the LEA will use the funds it reserves under Section 2001E1 of the ARC Act to address the academic impact of lost instructional time through the implementation of evidence-based interventions such as summer learning or summer enrichment, extended day, comprehensive after-school programs, or extended year school programs. How the LEA will spend its remaining ARP-ESSER funds consistent with Section 2001E2 of the ARP Act, and how the LEA will ensure that the intervention it implements will respond to the academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs of all students, particularly those students disproportionately impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, including students from low-income families, students of color, English learners, children with disabilities, students experiencing homelessness, children and youth in foster care, and migratory students. The LEA must reserve at least 20% of funds to address learning loss through the implementation of evidence-based interventions to address the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on unrepresented student subgroups. Remaining funds may be used for a wide range of activities to address needs arising from the coronavirus pandemic, including any activity authorized by the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, the Individual with Disabilities Education Act, Adult Education and Family Literacy Act, or Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Act of 2006. Specifically to develop strategies and implement public health protocols in line with the guidance from Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on reopening and operating of schools to effectively maintain the health and safety of students, educators, and other staff. Our educational partner groups, such as our parent advisory committees, LCAP advisory committees, administration and principal collaborations, school site staff, and secondary students participated in a variety of collaborative activities that included discussing educational articles, engaging in an AVID strategy known as World Cafe, and contributing feedback to the use of our Jamboard or our Thought Exchange survey. Listed in the thought bubbles above are just some of the feedback that influenced the development of our ESSER 3 plan and how the district would ensure in-person learning, maintenance of effort of equity, and addressing learning loss as it applies to academics, social emotional well-being, and that disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on student subgroups. Thoughts were desegregated by top-rated ideas, key thoughts, top themes. Actions were then implemented to the plan, such as custodial, HVAC, transportation, technology, and nutrition assistance, COVID mitigation procedures, additional staff to support classrooms, academic interventions, expanded learning opportunities, as well as support for social, emotional well-being and mental health. Here is a sampling of how some of our actions were developed and included into the ESSER 3 plan based on the feedback from our educational partners. The description of the actions, cost, metrics, progress monitoring, and alignment to our other funding documents are listed in the various tables located in the document. And that is all we have for our ESSER 3 this evening. Thank you for your time. Do you have any questions?
Emily, do you have any questions?
Sounded good.
Pierce.
I mean, just trying to keep track of all the funding that's come in since we started this on Friday the 13th last year. It's overwhelming. I noticed in this board agenda we have even adding some paraeducators to help with interventions and all the school sites that are setting them up, with even using retired teachers and other skilled people to do it, and the programs that we bought to be able to help that. I think we're really addressing the learning loss, and I already answered to, I already spoke about the mental health things that I'm so happy that we're doing with all the counseling and things we're trying to reach the kids. So I'm just grateful for this funding that has helped us get through this so far. So it's an excellent report, but it went really fast, and I have so many, questions if I really sat down with somebody to ask, but, I think it was a good report, so thank you.
I don't have anything. Thank you, Kristen. It
Thank
was an
you.
excellent report. Thank you.
Jonathan.
Thank you so much for your report. I actually sat on the committee as a board member, so it was this year when we talked about what our local control accountability plan was. It was much different than it has been in the past. To say that there's learning loss or a gap, an achievement gap, is to really, we have to be very careful that we don't really recognize how severe it is, and that this is not a year or 2-year issue. And we had talked about that in the LCAP, that the funds that we're getting from the state are not necessarily going to help us 5 years from now, when we'll probably still be having the rippling effect of what's happened, having our students out of school. That being said, I think that we did a really wonderful job in addressing it, and I went to some school site visits and talked about summer school that was implemented, that hasn't been implemented at the degree it was. As you said, the extending day, all of those things to make sure that we're trying to reach those students so they don't fall through the cracks, because after all, that's what we're here for, is the students. So, but thank you so much for your presentation, and thank you as always for working with us with the LCAP process, because you've always done an incredible job, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Conover.
Presentations, I have no questions.
And I have no questions, and thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Mr. Bailey.
Thank you, Kristen, and thank you to Ed Services. I just want to remind the board you're actually taking action on this plan at a later time on the agenda under Ed Services General Function.
Okay, we'll now move on to public hearings, which we don't have any, and discussion on COVID-19 response. Mr. Bailey.
Yeah, I'll just go to my right here from Education Services, Dr. Kelly Mae Vollmer.
Thank you very much. Just one update this evening in response to COVID. As Mrs. Jonathan mentioned, there are some very important attention that needs to be paid to our students that are struggling as a result of going through a pandemic. And so one of the additional efforts that we'll be putting forward, and I wanted to inform the board this evening, is we're adding 11th grade opportunity classes at both of our alternative high schools. And this will support our 11th grade students that are not in a position to earn enough credits to graduate in a traditional high school. And so our hope is that participation in these courses will position them to successfully earn those credits and graduate on time. And that concludes my report.
Mr. Aquino, Business Services.
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay, Dr. Hyde, Personnel Services.
No report at this time.
And lastly, Laura Fisher, Student Support Services.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bailey. I just want to share a few local COVID data points this evening. On our district dashboard, as of today, this afternoon, before I started over here, we have a total of 48 active cases, including students and staff at both sites and the district office in the last 14 days. And if you all have watched it, you can see how it drops off each day because it is interactive and we update sometimes several times throughout the day. Also, in regards to Riverside County Public Health is reporting a case rate today of 12.2 per 100,000 people in the county, with a positivity rate of 4.6%. As the county sees this trending downward, we also see that in our district as far as cases trending downward. In addition, as last board meeting, I talked about vaccine clinics. We have additional clinics that have been scheduled in partnership with Desert Oasis Healthcare. We'll be at Indio High School in the theater for the Pfizer vaccine and flu shots on October 28th from 3:30 to 5:30, and November 17th from 3:30 to 5:30 for the second COVID vaccine dose. Booster vaccines are also available for those eligible, which does include all district staff, sites and district staff. We also have, in partnership with Desert Healthcare District, we'll be at Jefferson Middle School on October 27th from 1 to 4 to provide Tdap vaccines, which is a required immunization for middle school students. So any middle school students from any of our middle schools throughout the district will be able to come to Jefferson if they haven't been able to get it yet and get that required vaccine, along with they will also have Pfizer vaccines available too. All these registration dates and location information is provided on our district website and will be coming to parents through Peach Jar. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Public comment on open session items. Anna Conover.
I have 13 online public comments that I'll be reading. First one is Estelle Dahl. As a recently retired teacher and resident of Palm Desert, I would like to commend you, the DSUSD board members and administrators, for requiring both masks and staff vaccines. If necessary, I hope any COVID tests done for unvaccinated staff are paid for by those who refuse to get vaccinated, not by taxpayers. Thank you for following the science, CDC, and state guidelines. I realize it cannot be easy to do this in the face of some strident but foolish opposition. However, I hope you will continue to stand firm in protecting the safety and health of all students and staff. Thank you. Next is from Maggie Hamilton. Public servants, like school board officials, have a lot to contend with these days. Not only are they elected to ensure that students have the best education possible, but that they make certain that schools are the safe place to be for our children. I do not like wearing masks, but I wear one to keep others as well as myself safe from the transmission of COVID-19. Masking requirements have been proven to prevent school-related outbreaks. Not having a mask requirement has caused schools to close, like those in Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, and Texas. Students under 12 are more vulnerable because they are unvaccinated. Therefore, wearing masks is even more necessary. It protects everyone on campus. This is a public health issue, actually a global one. I am so glad that the Desert Sands School Board takes seriously the health of all students and school staff. I commend them for doing something that is not easy, and I stand behind them. Next is from Diane Franco. As a former teacher and elementary principal in DSUSD, I would like to go on record stating that masking is such an easy, peaceful way of helping to stop the spread of COVID. Taking less effort than fastening a seatbelt. How about we listen to what other people have to say as well? Thank you. Thank you. We can help protect ourselves and others. Please continue to require masking. Thank you. Number 4, James Jones. As a citizen of Indio, a retired teacher, and a person who cares for public health, I wish to support the district's requirement for students and staff to wear masks to ensure the good health of themselves and all who enter the schools. If I were still teaching, I would expect nothing less. Such a policy also protects parents, grandparents, and other family members with whom they interact outside of school. Many of these members may be over 65 and/or be immunocompromised. The need for masks will be lessened sooner rather than later if we follow appropriate measures to beat COVID-19 and its variants. Next is Dorothy Dupree. In today's political climate, we have so many people who think they should pay attention to one party, but who doesn't seem to understand the science of a pandemic and refuse to follow the guidelines of the CDC. All the infectious disease specialists have told us that mask wearing is one of the best ways to prevent getting the COVID-19 disease. I believe in following the experts' advice and not politicians that don't know anything about infectious diseases. Why would anyone want to risk a child's life by not following the expert's advice? Do they ignore their own doctor when he gives them a prescription and specific instructions about how to take it? I wonder how many people who object to mask mandates actually have children in Desert Sands School District. I don't think they have the right to object to mask mandates. There are many children that are getting COVID because their parents and other people refuse to follow the advice of experts and don't get vaccinated and don't wear masks. I support the district in their decision to mandate masks in school. We don't need children to die from COVID because of a few people who think they know more than the infectious diseases experts. Don't let the few people who scream the loudest harm Desert Sands children. Next is from Time Flat. I am a mother of 4 and I am against COVID-19 vaccine mandate. As parents, it is our right to make this choice for our children, not the school districts. My concern is the long-term effect the vaccine may have on our children. There are no long-term studies being done on children. The CDC is still learning about COVID, let alone the vaccine. There have been very few studies done on children for the vaccine since it is not FDA approved. Our children are not lab rats. I am not against vaccines. I am against this vaccine until there has been years of studies done to prove it is safe for all children. Please think back to when COVID began and how the CDC has changed their stance many times on COVID, from the precautions, how we contracted, and who can get it. The same may happen with this vaccine as we learn more about the virus and vaccine. We just need more time and studies for parents to be comfortable having a vaccine on the list with the many vaccines our children are required to have for school. Next, Alexa Sawa. Next, Alexa Sawa. I am the mother of 3 Carter Cougars, 2 5th graders, and a 3rd grader. I also have a PhD in molecular and cell biology from UC Berkeley and teach biology at College of the Desert. Thank you for doing everything you can to keep in-person learning safe for students and teachers. Sticking with the state guidelines requiring masks indoors is a critical component of our COVID safety plan, especially as our elementary students are so far too young to be vaccinated. I understand there is a vocal minority who feel that masking is unnecessary. However, the biology of this virus and the epidemiology data collected so far support continued masking until widespread vaccination drives community spread down. There are a number of studies that demonstrate the effectiveness of masking. Here is just one example. In Arizona, analyzing over 1,000 schools with and without mandatory masking in July through August 2021, schools without mask mandates were 3.5 times more likely to have outbreaks. This is from Jen M. McCullough, JM, Dale AP et al., Association between K-12 School Mask Policies and School Associated COVID-19 Outbreaks, Maricopa and Pima Counties, Arizona, July through August 2021. Please keep our kids and communities safe by continuing to require indoor masking for the immediate future. In-person learning is too important to risk by removing one of the most important layers of protection we have. Like most people, I look forward to the day we can take our masks off. That day is not here yet. Thank you for your time. Next is from Liz Lawrence. I am writing to say thank you to the board and all the teachers and staff of DSUSD for continuing to keep our children safe with common sense COVID mitigation strategies like masking and easy to access free testing. Recently, a child who sits next to my son had a rare positive case, but due to these practical measures, my son remained healthy and able to continue his in-person education. I have several friends and family members who teach in different parts of the U.S. who aren't lucky enough to be governed by science-minded, compassionate leaders. They have dealt with large groups of children whose education is disrupted by quarantine and illness, and even the death of beloved colleagues. It has happened on a scale thankfully none of us have had to endure. At this point, though, it would be easy to become complacent. Numbers are down, confidence is up, and life is looking closer to normal. I'm relieved, however, to know our district and the state of California will remain vigilant, especially as the holiday season approaches. So to the board and everyone involved with our children's education, thank you for your time and your efforts to keep our community safe. Keep up the great work. Next is Lisa Talley. Good evening, and thank you for reading my comments. I urge you to stand up for vaccine choice for our kids and staff in the DSUSD. In an article for MedPage today, Martin Macri, MD, states that there is a case to vaccinate kids, but it's not compelling right now. He states that a research team at Johns Hopkins found that 100% of pediatric COVID deaths were in children with pre-existing conditions. So there is a case to vaccinate any child with a comorbidity. I would add with parent and doctor in agreement. However, there are too many questions and such a low mortality rate among children that forcing a shot for everyone is not wise, to say the least. If anyone would care to pay attention to VAERS, you could see that roughly 5,000 deaths related to the COVID-19 vaccine have been reported in the first half of 2021. Normally, there are only about 200 a year for all vaccines combined. This is not just a normal childhood vaccine to be added to the list. Has anyone taken into account natural immunity? The MedPage article goes on to state that based on accumulating data, children who have had COVID-19 should not get vaccinated unless they are immunocompromised. I have a feeling there is a huge number of our DSUSD kids who have natural immunity. Why not let them get tested for that before forcing something so potentially harmful? I urge and fight for our kids. Vaccine choice, not force. Next is Aspen Flat. Dear board members, I am Aspen Flat, an 8th grader at Page Middle School. I'm sure you have heard from many parents and teachers with all their opinions, but have you heard from the students? Unlike adults, kids are still developing and growing. We are the future of this world. Risking kids' lives and brains by taking the vaccine is a risk you should not be willing to take. Unlike other vaccines you get, this vaccine has only been approved for emergency use. There has not been the studies needed for this vaccine also. There have been no long-term research for the vaccine, considering the vaccine has only been available for less than a year. I think it's great if people get the vaccine. I don't think you should have to get the vaccine, though, and this should be an option. Instead of mandating the vaccine, people should have a choice in the matter. According to the news, 77% of people are vaccinated. If a vaccine works the way it should, those vaccinated should not be affected by COVID, and the unvaccinated, those that are not willing to be vaccinated, are taking their health into their own hands. They should have choice to do so and should not be mandated to get the vaccine. Students should not have to choose between getting the shot or their education. Please take this to mind. Number 11, Martha Sung. The cost of living has gone up considerably. Teachers are the driving force in our school district. We are the reason schools are back up and running. The train is moving, folks, and we deserve a generous raise and recognition for it. Even the leaders of this district have received hefty raises. Do you really think it is ethical that teachers only get offered a 3% raise when we are in the classroom in the midst of a pandemic and making sure everyone is learning in a safe and healthy environment? Our district leaders were given a 13% raise. Why? Please explain in detail why district leaders received and had the gall to accept a 13% raise. Please explain why teachers did not merit above and beyond a 3% raise. The actions by district leadership convey blatant disrespect to the teachers of Desert Sands Unified School District and their goals and efforts to better the lives and experiences of the children of this community. Next, Matt Matthews. Greetings. Thank you, Superintendent Bailey and honorable board members, for your steadfast positive attention to the ongoing COVID-19 public health crisis. Your measured and logical approach to the safety of the students and staff is much appreciated by the vast majority of the public and parents, despite the din from the noisy fringe, some of whom you may have witnessed in person at board meetings. Please know there is a quiet majority who fully support your actions. Thank you. 13, Tricia Ryan. Please consider that Desert Sands has no indoor physical education facilities for students at the elementary and middle school levels when you vote on a calendar that impacts the entire district. It is understandable that you are trying to address the AP students' needs. However, that is about 20% of our high school students. Wouldn't it make more sense to have those specific students start earlier, like our high school athletes do? It is shocking how early we're now starting the school year, so early without any reasonable accommodations for 2/3 of your students. PE minutes are required, so there needs to be indoor facilities for that to happen. Those are all the online comments. Moving on to in-person comments. Communications from the floor. In accordance with bylaws of the board 9323, time is reserved for oral communications by members of the Board of Education or by citizens present. Citizens wishing to be heard on agenda items shall have a 3-minute limit and should indicate their intention at this time. In accordance with the law, decisions of the board cannot be made on any matter not previously published before the board meeting, as indicated in bylaws and of the board 9323.2. Before we start, I would like to remind everybody that as a speaker comes up, they get their 3 minutes, and they should have that time to speak without any interruptions, without anybody trying to over-speak them. And I apologize if I mispronounce any names. The first person is Maria Soria. Okay, Maria Soria. No? Okay. Next person is Rachel LaCroix.
packed house tonight. So I'm definitely here because this mandate is not okay. It's unacceptable for our kids. And I'm just waiting and hoping and pleading with you. Like, what is it going to take? What is it going to take? You think that it's going to be okay? You say you care for all the kids? Well, when you're going to send our kids home because we refuse to vaccinate them, you're not caring about all kids, okay? You're teaching our kids that it's okay to send them home. They're different, okay? You're bullying. You're teaching our kids not to bully, but then you're bullying them. It's not okay. When is it going to be enough? When we can't leave our homes because we don't want to get vaccinated with a drug that has not been thoroughly tested? You guys, I mean, when are you going to stand up? When are you going to realize that this is unacceptable? I'm here to say, stop the mandate. Stop it. I've told you once, and I'll tell you every first and third Tuesday, all year long. It's not okay. I will not comply. And Dawn, I don't agree to disagree. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Travis Franklin. Travis Franklin.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Travis Franklin. I'm here to speak about my personal experiences. I'm a retired Marine, spent half my life defending the country, and I've had to endure countless vaccination requirements, all the way from anthrax with periodic boosters, smallpox vaccinations, malaria vaccinations and medication, and all the other gauntlet of vaccinations I've had to endure. And I accepted that, okay? It was part of my federal mandate and duty as a Marine. After I retired from the Marine Corps, I pursued a career in the medical field. I am a registered respiratory therapist, and I've served our nation's veterans through the VA hospital. Whenever we decide not to take a flu shot, we're required to wear a mask in the hospital, no exceptions. I think that should be something of a healthy compromise in this case. However, with the lack of testing of the COVID-19 virus, I cannot subject my child to that, and I will not. We witness some beautiful presentations on inclusion and bullying. What about the children that are against this? We have a say. We feel like we're not being included and bullied to conform to a standard. So I wanted to thank you each for letting me speak and be heard, and I will be patiently quiet, sitting here, listening to everybody else's voice. Thank you.
Okay. Next is Stacey Franklin.
Hi, my name is Stacey Franklin, and my daughter is a 7th grader at Desert Ridge. Like most parents here, I oppose both mask and vaccine mandates. Typically, vaccine development is long and complex and often lasts 10 to 15 years. The COVID vaccine was developed in under 1 year. Due to the rush to market and lack of long-term safety data, many children have reported to have myocarditis within 4 days after receiving the second dose. I'd like to share with you a quick story. When I was 21, I went to Israel. During my trip, I visited Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum. The museum leads into the Hall of Names, an eerie space that is pitch black, all but for twinkling lights throughout. On the speakers, you hear the millions of names of Holocaust victims, adults and children whose lives were cut too short. Before we entered the museum, our tour leader asked us to write 5 hopes and dreams we had for the future on a 3x5 card. After we exited the Hall of Names, we came together around a fire and we threw our cards in to symbolize the dreams of those who lost their lives that would never come true. There were witnesses to these tragic events, and it didn't end until people stood up to stop it. How many kids must have severe adverse reactions and long-term effects or even die before we stand up and stop the insanity? These kids are not statistics. They are or were someone's baby. Maddie DeGarry, 12 years old, within 24 hours developed abdominal, muscle, and nerve pain, gastroparesis, nausea, vomiting, erratic blood pressure and heart rate, memory loss, brain fog, headaches, dizziness, fainting, and seizures. She developed verbal and motor tics, loss of feeling from the waist down, muscle weakness, changes in her vision, urinary retention and loss of bladder control, severely irregular, heavy menstrual cycles, and even has to have an NG feeding tube to get nutrition. Jacob Kleinig, age 13, died 3 days after from myocarditis. Sean Hartman, age 17, died of myocarditis. Joshua Henry, age 14, died within 90 minutes after a brain aneurysm. Ariana, age 13, dies after a heart attack in less than 24 hours after. Moshe Rahman, age 16, died 3 weeks after. Elias George Kapoulis, age 15, died 3 days after. Isabelle Valentim, age 16, 8 days. Malaka Riscala, age 15, 7 days. Julia Licenti, age 16, 16 hours after the vaccine. Majda Azrak, age 14, went into a coma 2 days after and died 26 days later. Everett Romney, age 17, 2 blood clots in his brain and now can barely walk. How many more names are you willing to add to the list? What if it was your child? I urge the board to stand up for our children. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. I'm back again. My son is Chase, and we had an interesting week this week. Don Griffith, I want to start off with one of the last comments I heard walking out of here last time. We need to agree to disagree. And you know what's better for my son and our children than they do and than we do. I can't even believe you said that. You had the audacity to say it, that you love them more than we do. Well, we ran into a week this week where Chase was asked to leave because there was a COVID patient. We got a call on a Sunday night, and that Sunday night I got a little letter from the nurse here. We got a couple of correspondence about 9 o'clock at night. We can't go to school. Chase has been exposed to COVID, and I looked at it in person, and it was because he was unvaccinated. So someone said because he's unvaccinated, he's one of the people that has to stay home. So Chase was pretty upset about this. He'll share his share about that. But we went through that, and then I got a letter last week on Friday and an email that students unable to wear a face mask must wear alternative face shield or drape for the California Department of Health. Chase has a mask exemption that we put in place when school started this year that was written up by a doctor. The people that qualify for mask exemptions are persons with a medical condition, mental health condition, or disability preventing them from wearing a mask. I'd like you to be informed that we have not spoken to the school, but Chase and I are going to put you guys on the loop here with legal notice that all regulation mandating face requirements and usage in public based upon medical criteria, wearing a face mask poses a risk to Chase's health, hygiene, and mental well-being. A standard face mask is not a micron filter and cannot inhibit or prevent bacteria or viruses. Under the American Disabilities Act, I am not, meaning Chase, is not required to disclose his medical condition based upon the clauses covering confidentiality. Violations to rights under the American Disabilities Act are subject to a penalty of $75,000 for the first offense and $150,000 for more than the second. The American Disabilities contact number I have here if anyone needs it. In accordance with the American Disabilities Act, for individuals, they can be held liable for injury, inconvenience, loss of income, death, psychological distress, and a lawsuit may be filed based on the consequential detrimental effects. Wearing a face mask is exceedingly hazardous, far greater than the threat of coronavirus. Oral bacteria can be caused. You can get a heart arrhythmia. You've got hypoxia. You've got oxygen deprivation. You've got CO2 that you're breathing in. I'm not going to get into what Chase's disabilities are, but he qualifies to have a mask exemption. The only way we're allowed to go back to school is to talk to the principal. I wonder if it has anything to do with the $4,587 you get per student to keep these mandates in place.
Next is Chase Coughlin.
Hi, I'd like to talk about how when I was told to go home, it's pretty easy. I was immediately felt like I was back in Zoom school. I felt depressed, I felt sleep deprived, I felt energy deprived, and I felt like I was targeted because I'm unvaccinated, even though if you're vaccinated, you can still get the virus. So why am I being targeted? And I also wanted to bring up all the money and funding that you guys got for the from the government. So you got from the CARES Act, you got $7,598,739 from federal allowance. And then from state allowance, you got $22,741,203. Then $900 billion COVID relief bill, you got $26,262,657. Then the American Rescue Plan you mentioned, $58,392,375, plus the $4,587 you received for each student, equals to a total of $133,023,000, plus the money that I mentioned earlier is $114,994,974, equaling $248,017,974. To put that into perspective, that is a lot of money. That is it's our money. So why do you need another $250 million? Why do you need it? We were stuck at home. What do you need it for? I'd like to get a thing called a Public Records Act request from you. And one more thing regarding the mask. Here's something. Imagine that there is a 99.97% chance that you'll crap your pants, but that you won't crap your pants, but they force you to wear a diaper just in case. Now imagine that you must wear those diapers to prevent your neighbors from crapping their pants as well. That's what you're doing with the mask and COVID. So please unmask everyone, because it's not a law, it's a mandate. And you had a choice in the beginning of the year. You could choose, we're going to vaccinate or we're not going to vaccinate. We're going to mask them. And you can't a mandate is not a law. It's not a law is different from a mandate. A mandate can be exempted, like the mask mandate. You can't.
I'm not sure that's a K or an R, ring line or king line? Okay.
Nice to see you all again. You did well on my name. Thank you very much. There's some familiar faces here. You're getting used to us. There's a lot of new faces, a lot of new parents. And we're not stopping. And there will be more at the next meeting, and more at the next meeting, and more at the next meeting. I had the pleasure of going to Sacramento yesterday and joining fellow parents and students. Do you know about it? There were over 4,000 of us there. We got a full room tonight, plus out in the chamber. Don, Tara already talked to you about your comment. I got to talk to you about it as well. And to remind you that we elect you, and we pay for you. You report to us, not the unions and not the government. That's the way it is. That's why we're recalling you. Okay, and I think there's more coming on tonight. So I just want to remind you that you all are violating your oath with this unconstitutional mandate. There are schools that are standing up to it, boards that are standing up to it, and not mandating this stuff. We encourage you to do the same. You hear from us every time now, and more people, and they're giving you the reasons why not, or why to not support these mandates. And I want to talk about the CRT and the sexual indoctrination, all of it. All of it has to stop. And we won't stop until it does. So it's time that you actually come to the side you're supposed to be on. And that's the side of the parents and the students, not the government. And then what happened before us with the union coming in here asking for an increase? No. And your increase, you shouldn't have got it. Chase just talked about the millions of dollars we got for this COVID relief, which we should have never shut down to begin with. So there should have never been any need for that. It's ridiculous the amount of money that's being spent. And those teachers, some good and some bad, the bad ones are protected by the unions. They do deserve to get paid. They take care of the kids, but they're not taking care of our kids right now because they're not standing up against these mandates. They're not standing up against CRT. They're not standing up against sexual indoctrination. So they don't deserve an increase until they stand up for our children, not their unions, not their own pocketbooks. Teachers, are you hearing us? We need your help with these children to save them from this tyranny. I love the NDO school recognition tonight. The one thing the lady said that caught my mind is they've seen a rise in social and emotional issues. Imagine that. Imagine that. I can't finish, but you get the point.
Catherine Silvera.
Good afternoon. I am Kate Silvera, and I'm an elementary arts specialist in our district and a parent of 2 students in our district as well. I first want to address the teachers and staff who are here physically and virtually. To the teachers, we see your hours you have put in this year, many underpaid and even more unpaid. We have seen you spending hours at home or coming in early trying to create lessons to bring your students up to grade level. We see you on your own time creating virtual lessons for the students who could not be in class due to their health or their loved one's health. Your time trying to teach your curriculum while focusing on the social emotional needs of these students do not go unnoticed. Special education teachers, the literal thousands of hours you have spent in IEP, 504, and SSP meetings have been seen. On top of those hours, you dedicate every day, all day, making the most inclusive environment you can offer. Paras, we see how understaffed you are, and yet you come in every day to change the lives of those you help. We see your dedication, commitment, and your love. Classified school site staff. There would literally be no school without you. We see how you are able to take these buildings and people and make them into a school and community. School counselors, you have one of the toughest jobs this year. The trauma our students have experienced has left a lot of damage, and you have shown up every day to help these students, mind, body, and soul. Now, board and cabinet, how can you show your staff and educators that they matter? First, you stand up for them, their safety, and their expertise and training. Many come virtually to listen to these meetings to hear you stand up and speak up for them. The time is now. Secondly, you can show that you stand behind your staff and educators through the policy. As we as a district have kept our COVID numbers down because of the policies that are in place. You need to continue to make these policies standard and make our schools safe for everyone. Also, your teachers and classified staff have been working hours upon hours of unpaid time, unable to take a day off due to sub shortages. You need to compensate them for that time. And then you need to figure out how to support the staff so those extra hours can stop. Be it more teachers, more resources, or more support staff. Board, you need to stand up for your staff because they are not just your employees, they are the foundation of our community. Education is improving the lives of others and then leaving your community and world a better place than you found it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next is Susan Wadley.
Hi, I'm Susan Wadley from La Quinta. I'll cut to the chase. I don't want our community's children subjected to critical race theory and sexually perverse indoctrination. Masking and vaccination of kids is not your choice. It is the choice and responsibility of their parents. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do about it. First, let me give you some background. I homeschooled my 3 children for many years in Santa Barbara, including my middle daughter, who was ADHD and dyslexic, no meds. We continued to homeschool when God called our family to move to South Africa in response to the devastating AIDS pandemic. Now, that was a pandemic. We worked with orphans and gang members and school children who were receiving a horrendous government-funded education in the urban slums. By 7th grade, many of the boys would join gangs, and the girls would fall pregnant, especially the orphans. So we did what most Americans do, we innovated. In collaboration with the community members, we created a boarding high school for AIDS orphans. We took kids who were deeply traumatized and terribly educated, and by the grace of God, produced graduates who are now literally lawyers, nurses, teachers, social workers, ministers, and even our first doctor. Do you know how much easier it will be for us to create an alternative schooling solution here? So easy, and that's what we will do. It took me all of 5 minutes to assemble a core group of 7 moms who are gathering this Thursday to plan the rollout of an alternative school option for kids and parents who do not wish to participate in this offensive nonsense. We're going to create homeschool groups, which we will fund ourselves. We empty nesters are going to volunteer our time and resources to help working parents who can't afford to stay home. We're going to hire the teachers that you unconscionably wish to fire if they make their own healthcare decisions. I am making it my personal goal to get as many families as I can out of your schools and into healthy environments where they can thrive. Your government funding is going to dry up as more and more kids leave your schools. Hopefully then you will come to your senses and start representing we the people. It will be my great delight to serve the families in my community in this way, and there are a lot more where I come from. One final story. Several years ago, I hosted the senior girls from our orphan boarding high school in our South African home for the weekend. I was chatting with one of the girls, Emily. I don't remember what sparked my comment, but I said, I'm so angry with the white people around here and their racism and the mess they've created here for black people. What about you, Emily? Are you angry? Emily looked at me with a serene smile and said, no, Mrs. Wadley, we have forgiven them. And she meant it.
Thank you. Next is Dennis Wadley. Dennis Wadley.
Thanks. I just want to follow that up. That was my beautiful wife. I was also there running this orphan boarding high school, and what I can tell all of you is that you can do this. And if our kids are going to be forced to take an experimental vaccine that will potentially harm them deeply, you see, the people who've trusted in this, I'll give you a great example. There's a guy named Tim Vomsteeg. He is the soccer coach at UC Santa Barbara. They went all the way, go Gauchos. #1 in the nation a few years back. Tim's sons are amazing soccer players. One of them's already semi-pro, the next one is heading towards professional soccer. A few months ago, he found out in order to go to Europe and spend his summer, he had to get a vaccine shot, 2 of them, in order to go to Europe and spend a summer training before he comes back and plays at UCSB this year. His son got the first shot and got a massive blood clot in his leg within days. They convinced him, oh, this has nothing to do with the vaccine, nothing to do with it. He gets the second shot. He gets a second blood clot, a young, healthy 19-year-old in his ankle. And the doctor said, if you play soccer and that dislodges, you will die. He ended up with a massive surgery. They saved his life. They took out 2 huge blood clots because of a stupid vaccine that he didn't even need, because young people are healthy and they have almost no chance of death from the virus. But we're watching them die. If you go onto the CDC website, you look at the VAERS studies, people are dying left and right because of the vaccine. Children don't need this. So what you have to understand is there's a lot of us who know the science. There's a lot of us who are watching the science and the failure of the scientific community who are going to come up with another plan if you don't listen to us. And that plan will be starting other schools, finding other opportunities. We're going to look for other ways to do this, and it's not that hard, and you don't have to fear it. It's a pretty simple process to get something like that going. And like Susan said, these kids are thriving. These are kids who are thriving in the nation of South Africa, who got an education from people just like you. You can do it. Please listen, because you guys, you've shown some great stuff tonight. There's some great awards. You guys are doing some great things. But you need to understand, for every person in this room, there are hundreds more that didn't come tonight. And you need to listen. Put together a study group. Listen to us. Help really understand what's going on, because it's a groundswell, not only here, but all around the world.
Thank you. Next is Stacy Kirby. Stacy Kirby.
Good evening. My name is Stacy Kirby. I'm a grandma and a mom. My daughter teaches for you, and my granddaughters are twins. They go to school here. I taught at Palm Springs High School long time ago, like grandmas are supposed to. But I wanted to say there's been some remarkable people speaking. Thank you. Especially you touched my heart. But 2 years ago, the United States, as the rest of the world, the whole world, I thought it was just here, but it's everywhere, we began this COVID journey, and it's been, well, the rules and the restrictions and the guidelines have been ever-changing. If we think back, in the beginning, March, I think it was, someone said it was like on the 13th, I'm pretty sure. On a Friday too, no less. We should have known then, huh? But it was 2 weeks to stop the spread. And the funny thing is I just moved back to the desert. My daughter was born here, but we ran. My husband's retired RSO. And we ran to Colorado for 15 years, and we're living the life. And I can remember looking out, and there were no cars, and there were no people. It was eerie. But anyway, back to the subject. And then we went 2 weeks, then it was a month, and then suddenly it was masks on, masks off. You kind of felt like the Karate Kid, wax on, wax off. You know, we gotta lighten up here. There's anger and fear, and we all know that creates tensions, you guys. I know it. But our children then, my grandchildren, because I'm no longer a mom, my grandchildren went to virtual learning, and my daughter made the best of it. She used to take her kids on virtual field trips and stuff, and she was doing everything she could. We were told to protect the elderly and the at-risk, and we did this. But now we fast-tracked and we're on this vaccine thing, and we've forgotten the facts, but I've heard it tonight. It's under emergency approval. This isn't real yet, guys, and maybe we need to back off and listen to that man especially. But I ask you, I'm going to run out of time. My daughter went to school for 9 years. AA, BA, master's. She's not going to vaccinate, so are you going to let her go? Because she's one of your best. She's one of your best. She loves what she does. Her kids love her. You're going to let her go? You're going to let her go? Because she'll go to that lady.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board and members of cabinet. I wanted to start tonight by saying thank you to Dr. Rudy Wilson for hosting our first in-person negotiations meeting in over 20 months at La Quinta High School. And I wanted to say thank you to the culinary arts, CTE students, and faculty chefs for the wonderful lunch that was prepared for us. Getting to tour the medical and culinary CTE program buildings was amazing and brought a focus on the bigger picture of the work we do at Desert Sands. We're here for our students to provide them with educational opportunities and a chance to discover their passions and talents. And seeing what's being offered at La Quinta High School was awesome. I also have some concerns to share. And after the excellent bullying prevention presentation tonight, I do have to advocate for the certificated and classified staff at Shadow Hills High School, who earlier this evening met to discuss the problems they're having with the assistant principal in charge of the discipline office, Ms. Karen Hernandez, because they feel bullied. I recognize that the discipline office at a high school is a demanding and challenging position that requires a big heart and a firm hand. So I'm looking to shine a light on this situation in the hopes that Ms. Hernandez gets the support she needs. Staff talked about how she treats them with a dismissive, demeaning attitude, that she doesn't respond to communication from teachers or parents, that there is a lack of consistency and follow-through that is creating student safety concerns. They talked about a school climate where they're seeing rising drug use, truancy, graffiti, but that students don't feel there is any accountability. And when they get sent to the discipline office, there isn't anything being done, and that if there are any consequences, they aren't happening fairly. These staff members talked about how she's refusing to meet with parents, refuses to call them, only sends emails, and prefers to only have one chair in her office for visitors so that they feel uncomfortable and leave after 15 minutes, and isn't taking the time to connect with the students and understand the issues that brought them to her. They mentioned there seems to be an inequality targeting female students for dress code violations, and these students are becoming frustrated and angry. They talked about how her intense micromanaging style and unrealistic expectations creates a stressful working environment that they feel is setting them up for failure. I've been talking about how this year is a moment for our district to focus on leadership and team building and coming together to live up to our values of relationships, respect, teamwork, kindness, and excellence. The goal should be to create a positive and productive learning environment for our students, and that has to start at the top, with administrators creating a positive and productive working environment for their staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Dan Ball.
Good evening, board. How we doing? I missed the meeting last time, but I heard at the end of that meeting, the president of this board left with a phrase saying, we'll have to agree to disagree. I've used that phrase in my life as well, and said, you have to trust us. We know what's best for your kids. My daughter's an 8th grader in this school district. So tonight I'm not going to talk about CRT, masks, or vaccines. Let's talk about trust. We're the parents. Our tax money pays you. We trust you. We trust the teachers when we drop our kids off for 6, 7, 8 hours a day, right? We need trust. Don, can you wake up? Thank you. So, sorry, you were sleeping. So, well, your eyes were closed, sir. I thought you can't comment right now. Brown Act and all, right? So let's discuss trust. Tonight, we heard from teachers and kids about the bullying month that's going on, awareness. Something that was pointed out is called imbalance of power. Right now, that's going on with this board. There's imbalance of power from your dictator board leader and some on this board versus concerned parents. That's bullying, according to that definition up there. There's an imbalance of power. You're supposed to do what parents want you to do for our children, not what you deem necessary, especially you, Don, who haven't had kids in this district for how many decades? So let's talk about trust. I received a phone call from someone in this desert who just recently moved, predominant businessman, who informed me, and I'll take a step back. If we all remember the young girl who was raped at a house party by a Palm Springs baseball power player a couple years back in 2014. That young man is in jail now. That was the house of a coach that worked at this district. This man that called me verified it to a second source that they brought evidence to bear to Don Griffith at the time that this coach that worked for the district knew that the rape occurred and that he knew that it happened at an employee of this district's home. And he didn't tell this board. Maybe he did, the board didn't say anything. I know, Scott, you weren't here back then in 14, 15. Fast forward to about 18. That teacher was then let go, or coach, for an underage relationship with a student. Then you finally fired him. Don never said a word. Should we trust Don Griffith? If you can't tell the board and this public that something like that happened, and you know I called you a couple weeks ago and asked you to comment on it, then I will expose, once I do my interviews with these two people who called me, and you know them very well, by the way, because I'd like to fill you in on one more thing. The gentleman that called me also said, you were over at their house not long ago because you're good friends with his wife, and you have been since you were in school. And they asked you why you continue to run for school board president. And you said, quote, because you're bored. We don't need an older bored person on this board dictating what our kids do. So, Don, I brought you a book. It's called Retirement Planning for Dummies. That's yours, okay? Because I want your resignation. You covered up evidence about a teacher that was doing something that affected our kids, and you didn't say a word about it. So 2 things. Apologize for every parent here you've muzzled and censored. And second, tender your resignation now. The
This is Sophia Gracia. Sophia? Okay.
Thank you all. I appreciate your time. Thank you all for coming here tonight. My shirt, for the record, says, "Love is my religion." It's not just my religion. It is my foundation that I stand on every single day of my life. It's taken me a long time to get there, but I'm here. So in that breath, I'm going to do the best I can for what I got to say. First and foremost, what I'm about to read to you is the fact sheet for healthcare providers administering vaccination providers. So one more time. Fact sheet for healthcare providers administering the vaccine. Emergency use authorization for the Pfizer one, which you just stated that you're going to actually be having at some of these schools. And just so you know, I've attended almost all the schools here on some level. It says right here, information to provide to vaccine recipient caregivers. The recipient or their caregiver has the option to accept or refuse the vaccine. The significant known and potential risk and benefits of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine and the extent to which such risks and benefits are unknown. Immunocompromised persons, including individuals receiving immunosuppressant therapy, may have a diminished immune response to the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine may not protect all vaccine recipients. any of you read this? Because this is what you're talking about. Moderna has the same. There's a lot going on here, folks. And you have a lot of responsibility. And we have a responsibility as humans on this planet. I don't care if I'm in America. I don't care where I'm at. I am a human being, part of the human race. I may be Mexican. I may be this. I may be that. But at the end of the day, I am me. And not one of you, and nobody in here either, has a right to tell me what goes in my body, on my body, none of it. You talk about critical race theory, you talk about all these other things that are supposed to be helpful, but it really does sound like bullying. And you know what? I've been bullied since the 3rd grade for everything, for speaking up. You're conceited. Oh, really? Because I read something that I learned in school from your teachers? And let's talk about the teachers real quick. I have a lot of teacher friends and have for years down here. And you know what I've had to listen to? Them talk about the teachers that have done inappropriate things to our children. And you know what you've done? You've moved them from school to school. They have touched our children. I have been part of some of that. Love. You're not coming from love, and that's what matters. Love is the only thing that will save these children, because you're not coming from that or those children. That's what you're here for.
Kenny Snell?
Good evening. Thank you for having me here tonight. It's a pleasure to exercise my God-given First Amendment right. By the way, before I forget, I meant to do this last week. Whoever's sitting up here the end of next year, it won't be them. You make sure this young man gets a seal of engagement because he's doing it right. So I heard some things here last meeting that were very disturbing. I want to talk about one. You all stated that you appreciated that this group of people had their opinions and that we were just going to have to agree to disagree. That's completely backwards. I've sat here meeting after meeting after meeting, and these folks bring you well-sourced facts that you call opinions. However, you, in the meantime, parrot MSM propaganda and call it facts. It's like watching the theater of the absurd, Ubu Roy. I tried to warn you to do the right thing. You refused. You preferred to prevaricate and follow orders, which history has taught us is not an acceptable excuse. I want to read you something. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces the design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. In case you didn't recognize that, which I kind of doubt, that's from the Declaration of Independence. You are the abusers, the usurpers. You have all gotten your shiny new recall notices. I hope you enjoy them. We, the people, are going to do our duty. Thank you.
How's it going? My name's Keith Lathrop. I'm here again to advocate for my son, to be a voice for him. I was always meant to be a father, so when my son was born, it was like he introduced me to myself. He's taught me so many things, but above all, the true meaning of unconditional love. This precious gift, however, comes at a cost. The realization of what a parent is capable of doing to protect their child can be quite frightening. Furthermore, if your goal is to radicalize a peaceful group of people, I could think of no better way than to threaten their children. You'd have to be blind, deaf, and dumb to think that this group of parents doesn't take the COVID mandates as a direct threat to their children. It's your job to represent the voices of this community and to insulate us from the tyrannical overreach of our state and federal overlords. So far, you have failed conclusively. The overwhelming majority of the folks that have come to these meetings have been in staunch opposition to the COVID mandates, and you've done absolutely nothing to reconcile their concerns. This means you either believe that the state is better equipped to make medical decisions for children than their parents, or you believe in personal liberty, but you're too afraid to fight for it. Neither is acceptable. However, if you fall into the later category, I can understand why you're afraid, and there is no shame in resigning. This is not what you signed up for. How could it be? But regardless of what you thought you signed up for, there is no denying a revolution happening right now in our country, and we need leaders who will fight tooth and nail to protect our freedoms that are systematically being stripped away by our government. Unfortunately, I don't see this fight in any of you. I can only hope that those who replace you do not waste the opportunity to use their authority to demonstrate an example of good leadership. I'd like to take the rest of my time to thank the real heroes in this room. That's those of you who've made it a priority to come out here and speak up for our kids. I'm truly grateful. You guys put your butts on the line to fight against the tyranny that this school board is idly allowing into our schools. It's not easy to get out here to these meetings, especially for working folks with kids at home. Trust me, it's a juggling act. So those of you who make it a priority, you're owed a great debt of gratitude, and I can't thank you enough. In the saddest chapter of this country's history, you've given a cynical bastard like me hope. Not in a system that I believe is broken, but in a community who has the appetite to fight against real injustice. I thought I was alone until I heard dozens of complete strangers coming up here night after night, articulating exactly how I felt. I cannot accept this as coincidence, and I believe this is the voice of a silent majority. So if you've been inspired at all by these heroes, come out to the next board meeting. You don't have to get up here and speak, but at least show up and support these brave individuals who are fighting for our kids. So let this be a start, and allow me, if you will, to rekindle your fighting spirit by showing you that even though this board doesn't hear you, your community does. And it's waking up the right people. It's waking up the right people, I can tell you, the type of people who are not afraid to tell the real domestic terrorists that we've lived through your shutdowns, we don't accept your mandates, and you're smoking more crystal meth than Hunter Biden. If you think we're going to let you vaccinate our kids against our will over my dead body, it's never going to happen.
Frank Flatt. Frank Flatt.
Hi, how y'all doing? I'd just like to thank you for reading my wife's comment and my daughter's comment. She's a student of yours at Page Middle School. We came to the desert in like 2008, started a family. We got 4 kids. 3 of them are in your school district. And they've done so well. They're in the GATE program. My daughter Paisley, my daughter Aspen's co-enrolled at Palm Desert High School and goes to Page. Great kids. Couldn't think of a better place to send my kids to school. I just don't know how we got so divided here, where we lost our morals. This is sad, and I appreciate everybody standing up here. It's very sad that we're fighting to agree to allow our kids to go to school. It scares me to death to tell my daughter that, hey, sweetie, I got to go get you vaccinated so you can go to school. Why would you gentlemen, want to make a choice like that for my child? I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't send my kids to school when I know nothing about this harming them. And my wife had this. Year and a half ago. I kissed her every day. I couldn't get it. I got sent home for 2 weeks, couldn't go to work. We went camping up in Mammoth. It wasn't that big of a deal. I know it's hurting other families, and hey, if you want to wear a mask, you want to go get vaccinated, it's your choice. But allow me to have a choice to send my kids to school. And I just wish you guys would do something with the GATE program. I talked to, I think it's Mitch Wilhite, and I asked him, and he took it off his website. He said the last thing, he said it was embarrassing to him. He said there was a thing on there from 2015 telling me that the meeting had been canceled. And they haven't done nothing at the schools. I've asked about it. They said they got a WIN program at James Monroe. the WIN program ain't doing nothing for my daughter. Ask Paisley. She's there in 5th grade at Monroe. And she says, yeah, Dad, it's a class and all the kids are in alphabetical order. I said, oh, okay, so you're not allowed to be grouped with other kids that are in this GATE program. I mean, my daughter's, she was in 7th grade math and this COVID and all that, and her teacher said, you know what, Aspen, this math's too easy for you. I had to fight with them to move her to 8th grade. And then when she got moved to 8th grade, I said, well, I want her to take another math class, and we were going to go to Horizon. And after talking to Mr. Marcus Woods and going back and forth, we finally got her co-enrolled at Palm Desert High School. You know, she's got 103% in Math 1, Math 2 combo, and she's an 8th grader in high school, and she's taking the honors class, and she's taking an honors Spanish class over there. Well, thank you for letting me speak, and hopefully I'll be heard.
Thank you. Next is Lauren Seuss.
Hi, thanks for letting me speak. I am a mom of 2 kids who attend Desert Sand schools. I'm also an approved district volunteer. I volunteer, or used to volunteer, in my kids' schools. I would spend about 5 hours a week in my son's kindergarten and 1st grade classes, teaching reading centers. Every other Friday, I would teach art to the 1st grade class because their teacher didn't like art projects. Neither do I, but I really wanted the kids to have art projects, so I showed up and taught how to do Dr. Seuss crafts and all kinds of stuff. I'm also a volunteer with high school kids, and I used to go on a campus at Shadow Hills High School to volunteer in a mentorship program with high school kids. I'm no longer allowed to do either of those things because of COVID restrictions. And I kind of understood because that's what we have to do. But the day I went to drop off my daughter at kindergarten this year, there was an announcement made. Don't be surprised if you're not let back on campus unless you're fully vaccinated. And I was irate. I started to shake. I felt betrayed. I felt nauseous. Here I am dropping off my 5-year-old, and they told me, this is the last time you'll come back on campus. She lost her sweater this week. I can't help her find it because I'm not allowed to go and look in the lost and found. I'm trying to explain to a 5-year-old how to dig through a bin and look for her things. The teachers, I'm emailing them, we're overwhelmed. We don't have enough help. They need the parents' help. They need the volunteers' help. I want to give back to my community. I have the privilege of staying home with my kids. Look, most of my peers, my sister, my family, they homeschool their kids, send them to private school. I chose to put my kids in public school because I want to make sure that the kids in our community have people in the classrooms, not just the teachers, but people that care and want to make a difference. I have a lot of effort and a lot to give to the community that I'm not allowed to do anymore. And I know Susan, and I'm going to be one of the parents pulling my kids out of the school if vaccine mandates are forced upon our kids. I will take my efforts and my arts and crafts, and I will homeschool. I will apply to be a teacher at the school, and I will give those efforts, and I will take my efforts somewhere else. But I really want to use them here. I really want to make a difference with the kids who don't have parents that can spend 6 hours at a school board meeting. I'd rather be tucking my kids in tonight, but I'm here begging you to listen to us. We don't want these mandates. Let our kids go to school. Let us have a choice. Please, let me volunteer. Please. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next is Evelyn Morales.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me back. I was here last month. Unfortunately, I didn't get to come last week or 2 weeks ago because, I had things going on. I'm determined to get to my speech eventually about issues regarding transportation. High school students do not have the right to transportation. I live 5.6 miles from Palm Desert High School. My other son goes to Colonel Mitchell Page, which is 2.1 miles. They're both due to school at the same time. It is very difficult in the morning, especially because if my husband is working a morning shift at his job and he has to be there at 4 a.m., it's up to me to rush him to both of these places. The parents being stressed in the morning makes it more stressful for the kids when they get to school. We need to do something about this. I'm cutting it short because apparently, parents want to hear from both sides because apparently the other side never wants to come and say anything. Comparing the COVID-19 to the Holocaust is repugnant. I'm sorry, this is not one crazy person coming out here to kill us. This is an illness, totally different scenario case. Our wonderful veteran, he had an amazing idea. The people who do not wish to get vaccine, they should wear a mask. Why? Because they're not vaccinated. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, I don't want a vaccine, but I don't want to do anything to help prevent it. Our veteran, like I said, he's had a wonderful idea at his job. You don't get a flu shot, you wear a mask. Wonderful area in between to mix, so that way you don't have to force the medication in kids that is still a little new, even though my children are vaccinated. I understand other parents' concern for not wanting to do it right away. That's a wonderful compromise right there. Remember this whole, it's our body, it's our right. I hope these parents remember this when they're talking about sex education, when they're talking about abortions too. Same scenario. My body, my right. They should not have a say in some of these other things. They're contradicting themselves on one point to another. If they have one point of view, they need to stick to it instead of changing it every now and then. Why grandparents are here who do not have children inside the school district is beyond me. I'm one of 5. All of our parenting differences are completely different from my mother, and she has no right to tell me what to do with my children. She doesn't tell my sisters what to do with their children. We all parent differently. I'm sorry, the parent, or if you're a guardian and a grandparent, then you should be here. But if you're not a parent, you're not a guardian of a child, you have no business here. And as for the bullying, I'm sorry, they're calling you guys bullies. Throwing a book at someone is just as much of a bully as anything else. Parents need to remember, your kids are learning from you. You're setting the example, and some of these examples you're setting are ridiculous. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Next is Brandy, and I'm not sure what the last name is. Is it Burkhart? Burkhart, sorry.
All right, well, hi again. I was here last week. I don't know if you remember me, probably don't. But I wanted to start off with a little quote, something that I actually learned in the public education system. I grew up out here. I was taught practice makes perfect. So the more we practice something, the more we learn it, the better we become at it. So I thought maybe if you guys could just practice a little bit more and really hearing us parents out. You can learn a lot from us. We learn from you, you can learn from us. It is a two-way street. Again, as you know, we have put you here. You're supposed to work with us, not against us. I did want to address Dawn again. I know you seem very popular tonight, but I want to address the comment that you made last week, or last board meeting. To have to agree, to disagree, you think you're doing what's best for our children and our school staff. Well, I think most of us could say here, there's no agreeing to disagree. This is why we are here. We wholeheartedly disagree with you, hence why we're here every 2 weeks, why we hold rallies and protests. We're trying to have our voices heard so you can understand where parents are coming from. I get you guys may have a hard job, but you guys are not listening to us, and that's what's frustrating. We do not co-parent with the government. We definitely do not co-parent with you guys. We co-parent with my spouse. I don't even co-parent with my parents. When they give me advice, I say, I didn't ask you. If I ask you for your help, that's when you can step in. But they need to work with me as I'm my own parent of my own child. So there's no way I will let you make decisions for my family. Absolutely not. You don't know my kids. You don't know their medical concerns or their medical history. And Chase, I cannot believe what we're doing to him in the school districts. These are serious health concerns that you guys are going to be putting our kids in danger. That's blood on your hands. And are you okay with that? Are you okay knowing that these decisions you're making can impact the lives of our children and their future? What in 5 years, this really affects our children and they start dropping like flies? It's not okay to not know. If we choose not to be vaccinated, that should be our choice. I respect everybody's decision if they want to get vaccinated. I don't say bad things. I don't talk negative. They could do what they want to do. All we ask in return is that we get that same respect and let our continue to live our lives, and we'll protect our children the way that we see fit. So again, I just want to say thank you again for listening to me. I will keep coming, I will keep talking, and I hope one day we could all come together and work together, and God bless this country. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next is Reno Barella. Reno Barella.
Please don't confuse me as a domestic terrorist. I'm actually above that. I'm actually here to commend all of you, the board members and the helpers. I really show no prejudice to ignorance or the plead. I was just following orders. So me and the boys, I think you might know some of them, Chairman Mao, Fidel Castro, Mussolini, Stalin, and even Hitler got involved in this conversation. And there was a point where I thought, what the hell? Maybe I should run for board. Obviously, we haven't seen much difference. So we kind of came up with a little list of some of your accomplishments. And it's a short list, but you parents, you really should be ashamed of yourselves. You know, I mean, the board's trying the best and to do what they do and, you know, keep your children under their control, right? So number one, enforcing those mask mandates on the kids, hoping to suffocate, weaken their minds, their bodies towards complete control by the powers to be, which I guess that would be you, because they're not given a choice. Number two, forcing the kids to study and memorize critical race theory, which leads not to just scrambling their minds and losing their self-esteem and confusing and complacency, but it also has caused an increase, as we heard earlier, in bullying, depression, suicides, rapes, kidnappings are all up, and even child trafficking, because once you take a child's self-esteem away, they become very vulnerable to child trafficking. And that's why child trafficking right now is on the rise. Number three, brainwashing the kids. Don't go home and tell your parents what we're telling you. Keep it a secret from your parents. They won't understand. Actually, I had that talk with a parent the other day. He just realized that his son didn't like the mask after wearing it for the school season. 40 seconds. And number four, the vax mandates. Even with all the available evidence of the horrendous side effects, the tragedies, the paralyzing bodies, the deaths, keep pushing it, keep pushing it, keep pushing it. We love you for it. Makes our job easier. So, all I got to say to end this is keep doing what you're doing, forcing those innocent children to become obedient slaves. It makes my job a lot easier. Look forward to greeting all of you very soon, one day.
Next is J.R. Pomeroy.
May the Lord bless you. A double vaccine to General Colin Powell, what good did it do him? And we got, America will be subject to food rationing by 1974 and food rationing by 1980. Paul Ehrlich, was back in October of 1970. The oceans will be dead in less than a decade. Paul Ehrlich again. International teams of specialists find no end in sight to 30 years of cooling trend in the Northern Hemisphere. New York Times, 1978. We must realize that unless we are extremely lucky, everyone will disappear in a cloud of blue steam in 20 years. Paul Ehrlich, 1969. So, and this is what you're teaching our kids, that the global warming, or is it global warming or global cooling is going to happen? Climate change, up and down.
It's been changing forever, so.
I know, back in the old days, it was, one summer it was warm and next summer it was cold. It happens. So, what are we going to do? These kids they're important to us. But these children that you're teaching will be working for us. And we want them well trained. And this business about racism, where there are no white people on this planet, and there are no black people on this planet. We're all just different shades of brown. I mean, we're all sons and daughters of a guy named Noah. He built this boat and saved the world. And we're all his children. But there are no black people and there are no white people. And they're all citizens of this great country. And if we can keep it, it's not going to be easy. But Colin Powell had both vaccines, and he died from this COVID anyway. So what are we doing? God bless America. Amen. And God bless all.
Greg Malloy.
Just for clarification, it was Greg Maddox. As a history undergrad and conservative Presbyterian, yes, there are a few conservative Presbyterians left, I have a dark view of mankind. And I've seen, and we have seen, darkness with our lockdown policies, mask rules, and now vaccine mandates. In the 1980s, Yuri Bezmenov, a defecting KGB agent with the former Soviet Union, predicted that totalitarianism would consume the United States within a few decades, and would be implemented by Marxists and their well-meaning U.S. liberal sympathizers. He predicted these Marxists and their allies, their domestic allies, would control the schools, the government, the media, and finally even, believe it or not, U.S. corporations. This process was called national demoralization by the KGB. For this to occur, Bezmenov also said the U.S. would have to be destabilized and crisis fomented. As I am a history major, I want to go back in time just a few short years, and perhaps you will sense a theme or recognize a theme. Do you all remember the chaotic Kavanaugh Supreme Court hearings? The never-ending legal investigations into President Trump, such as the fabricated Russiagate conspiracy, his impeachment, the economic and personal destruction from the blue state lockdowns here in California and in the desert. After this now, with our current president, the humiliating and deadly withdrawal from Afghanistan. We know that too well here. Now we also have unresolved open border, continuing nonstop focus on COVID and vaccine mask mandates here. Our health system is literally being decimated by vaccine mandates. We also have out of control inflation, and we are now even discussing food shortages. I think you talked about that last time. And just a few weeks ago, as has been discussed quite a bit, The School Board Association and the AG labeled parents who objected to critical race theory as extremists. Do you sense a theme? Crisis. We are in a crisis, and it's on purpose. In all of this, some of you may have forgot the 2 weeks to bend the curve inducement so long ago. Pretty quaint in retrospect. I don't blame you if you forgot. Tyrants have used crisis and fear for thousands of years to make people forget, to brainwash them, and ultimately create mass psychosis for their ends. As to Bezmenov's final stage in her takeover, this is called normalization. Sounds pretty pleasant. But this is a communist euphemism for genocide of any resistors and scapegoats. We're not there yet, but we are in danger, and we're following the Bezmenov curve. Take a stand for freedom before it is too late. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Wendy Byer.
Good evening. Which one of you was it that gave the presentation on bullying? I appreciated that because we were bullied here about a month ago. Rudy Forte at Palm Desert High School needs to be fired immediately. He had the unmitigated gall to say effing H to a student who was wearing something that he didn't like. If you don't do it, I'm going to take care of it. Vaccine. The word vaccine and the use of that word vaccine regarding these jabs that people are being forced to get is the greatest misinformation campaign in use today. I'm going to say that again. The use of the word vaccine to describe these jabs that are being required of people in this country and around the world is the greatest misinformation, Mr. Zuckerberg, campaign in use today. These are genomic experiments that were generated by a computer that do not work, obviously. They are not reliable. They kill people. You, madam, don't seem to understand that we are very consistent about our bodies. When you have an abortion, you are destroying not your body, the body of a child that you are carrying. It is not your business to destroy another human being's body. I'm actually going to have more fun fooling with you. I said so many stupid things. Johns Hopkins University, OSHA, MIT, Norwich Medical Center, with 31 studies, have all said masks do not work. They will work against you spewing and spitting, but a virus, you might like to find out, is 0.003 microns, and it goes right through those. The only ones that work, according to NIH, who's paying off Fauci right, left, and sideways, are the ones that you put on your face that are tightly fit. And if you really want to do it, you wear a gas mask. They do not work. But there's money involved, and now we have a forensic accountant on our team. There's money involved here, $4,500 per student. If you will do what the government tells you, are you out of your minds? $4,500 per student. And I want to know where that money's going, so we are going to do the Freedom of Information Act. We do have a forensic accountant on board. You better hope that money doesn't disappear into thin air. And finally, once again, ladies and gentlemen, I've given up trying to convince you. I know this is like talking to myself in a mirror. You fool around with one of these little ones, and it's better for you that a millstone is tied around your neck and you are cast into the city.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to board and superintendent comments. Patricia Pierce.
I have no comment.
Linda Porras.
I have no comment.
Wendy Jonathan.
Yes, since last time I was here, I did get over to Ford Elementary, and they've done some great jobs with the work that they've done in improving the campus as far as the renovations that they've made. And I talked to Principal Preston, and he shared with me some of the struggles he's been having with the COVID and some of the acting out with some of the students, but I think that that's understandable since they have been out of school for so long. I also attended Washington Charter School and was able to look around at their school and see how things were going over there. Again, things are going quite well. And Alan Lehman shared that he's had a lot of support from his families and the schools. And finally, I went over to Palm Desert High School and looked at their CTE programs, their arts, their film, and I did mention the congratulatory flag that they got from La Quinta High School. So I did, it was a really pleasant visit as well. And finally, I wanted to share that you may not think that we do listen. We do. And I'm thankful for the first time as a board member. I've been on the board for 10 years. These past few months, believe it or not, are refreshing because we weren't seeing you at all. We would have wonderful things happening at our schools and maybe some things that are not so wonderful, but we weren't seeing the parents and the community here. And I got to tell you, I thank you for that because that's what we need to have. I'm sorry you can't talk right now, but I'm just telling you, we do appreciate it. It was not something we ever had before, and I'd love to see it continue because, quite honestly, these are your schools, and you should be taking an active role, so I appreciate it. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Anna Conover.
I did want to thank Indio High School for hosting the bands from the Coachella Valley. It was wonderful to see the performances. All the students were out there just really talented. We do have a lot of talented musicians. And I do want to thank Indio High School for hosting them and to all the schools that attended. And that's it.
Okay. My comments are, I do listen to what you have to say. I do have some concerns about the vaccines for young children, but right now I do think masks are the safest way to go in our schools. And I think that older people that have comorbidities should be vaccinated because it's going to make our schools safer. There's a lot of people out here that disagree with a lot of things other people have to say, but appreciate people coming and speaking their mind. Sometimes in a group like this, it's not that easy to do. So we do listen to what you say, but we do have different opinions. And so, we will do what we believe is best for the best interest of the entire school district. And I believe that's what our goal always has been. Mr. Bailey.
Just to go back in time, I believe it's posted on Super Seconds some time ago, but also for the audience regarding masking, it's universal masking in the state of California. CDPH has consistently stated that no later than November 1 of this year, they will revisit the universal masking mandate. It's technically a requirement as stated, and maybe some other safety protocols for schools. So we're anxiously awaiting word from CDPH on that topic.
Okay. General function business services. The first thing we have is a resolution 13-2021-2022 authorizing document signing by Jordan Aquino, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved, Anna Conover.
By Anna Conover. Is there a second?
Second, Wendy Jonathan.
Seconded by Wendy Jonathan. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for the question. This is a roll call vote. Tricia Pierce.
Aye.
Linda Porras.
Aye.
Wendy Jonathan. Aye. Anna Conover. And Donald Griffith votes aye, so that carries 5-0. And then we have one more thing. It's a general function. It is not a resolution, but is there a motion to approve award bid number 2122-002 for the warehouse inventory?
So move, Linda Porras.
By Linda Porras. Is there a second?
Second, Anna Conover.
By Anna Conover. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that carries 5-0. Next, we'll go to General Function Educational Services. We have one resolution, resolution number 14, 2021-2022, to certify the independent study curriculum. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved, Wendy Jonathan.
By Wendy Jonathan. Is there a second?
Second, Linda Porras.
By Linda Porras. Is there any discussion?
Just wanted to comment that it's good that we are looking for those students that kind of disappeared, and we're trying to get them to graduate. So, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that carries 5-0. Okay, then we have, I believe, 19.2 to 19.5 under General Function Education Services. Is there a motion to take these 4 items as a group or individually?
Move that we take them as a group. Linda Porras.
Okay, moved by Linda Porras to take 19.2 to 19.5 as a group. Is there a second?
Second, Wendy Jonathan.
Seconded by Wendy Jonathan. Is there any discussion on any of these 4 items? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that carries 5-0. General Function Personnel Services. We have 3 items, 20.1 to 20.3. Is there a motion to take these individually or as a group?
I move that we take them as a group.
By Wendy Jonathan.
Second, Linda Porras.
By Linda Porras. Any discussion on any of these 3 items? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that carries 5-0. There are no general functions for student support services. General function superintendent, 1 item, resolution, remuneration of the board. Is there a motion to pass resolution number 15, 2021-2022?
So moved, Linda Porras.
By Linda Porras. Is there a second?
Anna Conover.
Seconded by Anna Conover. Is there any discussion?
I appreciate this. I'm hopefully healthy, and I did have my booster today because my doctor recommended it because of my issues that I've been having. So thank you.
Further discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
All right, so that carries 4-0-1. Consent items, student matters. Mr. Bailey.
1 item, as agendized on 3.1, closed session. Tonight, closed session, the board took action to approve the following student matters. Item 23.1, stipulated expulsion number 21/22-09. This motion was made by Trustee Jonathan, seconded by Mrs. Porras, and the motion carried 5-0.
Thank you. Consent items, business services. We have 25 items. Is there a motion to take these individually, or do we want to take these 24.1 to 24.25?
I move that we take them all together, 24.1 to 24.5.
That was Linda Porras. Is there a second?
Anna Conover.
Seconded by Anna Conover. Is there any discussion on any of these 25 items?
Just want to thank Patrick Cisneros and his team and Jordan. These notice of completions, it was a long time coming, and I'm glad to see that we are slowly completing all the remodeling and all the construction we've been dealing with the last couple of years. Thank you.
I know that Patrick's gone, and so is Joe Ledesma, but and our other supervising contractors. Bogue, was that Bogue? I mean, to have a Bernard. I mean, to have 1 workers' comp claim on 2 remodels, which were pretty significant, is pretty outstanding work. And I know Patrick does a really good job in overseeing our construction, and I think it's the assistant superintendent of business services oversees him, and he does a wonderful job also.
And I wanted to ditto that. It's very impressive how well run it is, because I've I am in contact with other districts, and I don't hear the same stories there that I hear here. So thank you so much for a job well done.
Other discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That carries 5-0. Consent items, education services. We have 6 items, 25.1 to 25.6. Is there a motion to approve these items?
Conover.
As a group?
Yes, as a group.
As a group by Anna Conover. Is there a second?
Second, Linda Porras.
Seconded by Linda Porras. Any discussion on any of these 6 items? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that carries 5-0. No consent items for personnel services. Consent items for student support services. We have 4. Is there a motion to take these individually or as a group?
Move that we take them as a group, 27.1 to 27.4.
By Linda Porras. Is there a second?
Second, Wendy Jonathan.
Seconded by Wendy Jonathan. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That carries 5-0. Consent item superintendent, none. Personnel action certificated. Is there a motion to approve? Or do we have any blind items before I get going, Joe? All right, no? All right, 'cause I'm firing through this thing. Is there a motion to approve the certificated personnel items?
Anna Conover.
By Anna Conover. Is there a second?
Second, Linda Porras.
Seconded by Linda Porras, and another week of no retirements. So, any other discussion on that? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that carries 5-0. Nothing to add here either? Nope, good, all right. Is there a motion to approve the personnel actions for classified?
Anna Conover.
By Anna Conover. Is there a second?
Second, Linda Porras.
Seconded by Linda Porras. Is there any discussion?
Yes, we had 3 individuals retiring from the classified. We have Sheila Gigao from Ford Elementary. She's an she's a paraeducator for special ed severely disabled, and she's retiring after 14 years. We have Jose Hinosa, and he's from maintenance and operations. He's an electronic repair technician. He's been with our district for 32 years. That's amazing. Probably was one of the first people in electronics in our district. And then from the director of purchasing, Nancy Laversky is retiring. I am reminded of my first year when I got on the board and walking in and wanting to get a tour of the district office, and she looked at me and said, "It's been 18 years since somebody came in here and had a tour of this office." And I said, "Well, thank you very much." She will be sorely missed, and she's been with our district for 24 years. So congratulations to all of those, as Mr. Tomac would say, that reached the finish line.
Any other discussion?
I just want to say congratulations to Nancy. I've known her for a lot of years, and she's done a fantastic job, above and beyond what's been expected of her. And so I'm really going to miss her, but I wish her the best in her retirement and enjoying her grandbabies. So.
Hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Carries 5-0. Call out of closed session actions. We've done that, right? Suggestions for future agendas that receive at least 3 votes. Patricia Pierce.
I have none.
Linda Porras. Wendy Jonathan.
I have none.
Anna Conover. I have none. I've already said it, but we had a letter today. I mean, when we can put it on to talk about maybe having a staggered start for our school year. I know we have to do that 2 years out in advance with consent of our unions, but I'd like to take a look into that. I think it would be helpful to our younger students. So don't even write anything down. That was just chatter. Announcements. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Education is Tuesday, November 16th, 2021 at 7 p.m. in the District Education Center Boardroom, 47950 Dune Palms Road, La Quinta, California. We will reconvene to close session, but there will be no items to call out. So we'll be in recess, I guess. Closed session.